Welcome back. Despite mortgage rates dipping to a 5.5 month low, pending home sales posted the biggest decrease in 8 months. On top of that, the share of price reductions has been skyrocketing as well. It just hit a new all-time record high for data that goes back to 2015. Now, what's quite remarkable regarding the share of price reductions, basically at all-time record highs right now, is that the share of price drops tends to peak in the winter months. Here we are in mid-July at record high levels. In addition, housing inventory has been on the rise as well, which is good news for home buyers. It's very close to a 4-year high, despite a decrease over the past 2 weeks. I have a lot to share in today's video, to say the least. If you guys get any value out of today's video, I appreciate you guys, by the way. Please hit the like button. Also, consider subscribing as well. I post frequent housing market updates so you guys can be more informed. With that said, let's begin today's video. Again, I appreciate you. So this is all based on a new report from Redfin just posted today, which is on July 18th. It says mortgage rates dropped to the lowest level since February after the latest CPI, or the Consumer Price Index, which is a closely measure of inflation that the Fed watches. The latest CPI report showed inflation was cooling down. It came in lower than expected and also lower than the previous reading as well, which was in May. Still, pending home sales posted the biggest decrease in 8 months. So we're seeing rates decrease to the lowest levels since February, which would you would think that would spur home buying demand, but pending home sales decrease to low levels. On top of that, it says a home buyer with a $3,000 monthly payment can afford a $450,000 home today, with the daily rate as of today, which again is on Thursday, July 18th, is around 6.8%. That also was roughly the daily rate yesterday as well on the 17th. That same home buyer has gained about $25,000 in purchasing power since rates hit a 5-month high in April. So back in April, they could have bought a $425,000 home at the rate back then at 7.5%. So because rates decreased from 7.5 down to about 6.8 for someone looking to buy a house with a $3,000 per month budget, you now can qualify for a $450,000 home, whereas back in April, only $425,000. To look at affordability another way, and it says here the average monthly housing payment of would-be home buyers was at $2,722 per month, based on the 4 weeks ended July 14th. That's based on asking prices on national level and also weekly rate according to Freddie Mac regarding mortgage rates. That's about $115 lower than the peak that was set back in April this year. So in other words, we're saying here that housing affordability is improving because rates have been coming down. But I know a lot of you guys are looking for home prices to also decrease as well. I have a chart to share the changes in home buying payments going back to 2021, which, $115 per month savings is really not a lot when looking at the huge increase over the past several years. It also says here, this is all despite home prices very close to all-time record highs, only $100 less than the previous week all-time record high. Also, we have rising supply as well. Inventory is another piece of good news for home buyers. With new listings, these are a measure of people listing their house for sale, that increased by 6.4% year over year. And the total number of listings, or housing inventory, the amount of houses for sale right now, is near the highest level in almost 4 years for any week going back to the year of 2021. All right, let's scroll down here and talk about some leading indications of home buying demand, something I follow closely on the channel because anything that has to do with a closed home sale, this is the median sale price, the average sale price to final list price ratio, days in the market, etc., all have to do with the lagging indicator, what our housing market was like approximately 1 to 2 months ago when the home buyer got their offer accepted. Now, looking at leading indications, this is a leading indicator of future closed home sales and also future closed home sale prices as well, right? So looking at the daily rate as of July 17th, according to the Mortgage News Daily, we're at 6.83%, the lowest level since February this year. and down from the 6.9% we saw 1 year ago. So rates are lower today compared to 1 year ago, which is a very big difference compared to 2022 through basically mid this year. We had rates higher than last year's levels. Let me give you an update regarding rates though as of today, which is July 18th. Rates decreased from yesterday. Now we're at 6.81%. Let me give you a kind of snapshot looking at this rate. These are not the rates I offer. I am a licensed loan officer. These are rates according to the Mortgage News Daily. They basically survey lenders across the country asking them, hey, what is your best rate for someone looking to buy a house they want to live in? So in other words, not an investment property. They're putting 20 to 25% down. You have a fantastic credit score. What is basically your best average rate today? And as of today, it's at 6.81% for the average 30-year fix. Jumbo, 7.03%. And FHA loans and VA loans is around 6.3%. Now looking at the daily rate for a 30-year fix, 1 year ago, we're at 6.88%. So we're down by about 7 basis points compared to 12 months ago. One thing I do want to add is that, yeah, it's great to see that rates are down from last year. But when you couple the fact that we have basically all-time record highs in home prices, it makes housing affordability very, very challenging. And so we still have a huge issue. Home prices are still up by 4% year over year. So this small decrease in rates from 1 year ago is basically a nothing burger. But what is noticeable to me, though, is the changes in rates ever since really April this year. Back then, the daily rate was at 7.5%. Now we're at 6.81%. This is also about 1.2 percentage points less than the daily rate set back in mid-October when we were sitting at 8%. So rates are coming down, which is good news for home buyers right now. And again, we have inventory also increasing as well, which I'll share that with you guys here in a little bit. Going back to Redfin's report, looking at Freddie Mac, the average weekly rate is at 6.89%. That's down from 6.95% from 1 week ago, and also down slightly from the 6.96% rate we saw 1 year ago. Here's a note I added here though, because even though rates have been decreasing from 1 year ago, and of course, compared to October last year and April this year, leading indications are pointing to buyers waiting for rates and or home prices to decrease, because look at this. These are applications for home loans that decreased by 14% year over year and down 3% compared to the previous week. That's from the MBA. Also, Redfin's Home Buyer Demand Index, which basically is a loosely measure of demand for their agents and other home buying services from Redfin. That's down 15% year over year, but it did increase by 3% from 1 month ago. Also, Google searches for homes for sale is down a whopping 20%. So we're seeing, even though we have rates decreasing, we're seeing applications going down. We're seeing Redfin getting fewer requests for home tours and other home buying services. On top of that, less people are searching for homes for sale on Google. All right, let's change gears slightly here and talk about home prices on a national level. This, by the way, is for the 4 weeks ended July 14th. Redfin basically covers 400 plus US metros, and their weekly housing market data goes back through 2015, and it is subject to revision. So these figures I'm going to share with you guys may be different compared to the previous week that was reported from Redfin. So the overall median sale price on a national level is just under $400,000. That's up 4.4% year over year. And again, slightly below the all-time record high that was set last week. Looking at Redfin's data center regarding home prices here, $396,000, up by 4% year over year. That gain compared to last year has basically been paid all year. There was a small increase right here of 5%, but the rate of home price appreciation this year is basically on par with last year's levels, which is in blue right there. This year up by 4%. Last year's time, we're up by only 2%. 2022 up by 9%. And 2021, we're up by a whopping 20%. Back then, 342,000. Now it's at $396,000, a huge increase over the past several years. One more thing I want to add regarding this chart here is that 396,000. Remember back in June of 2022, we had all-time record highs as well. Back then it was at 383,000. So right now we're way above 2022's peak right now. Actually, I lied to you guys. I want to share one more thing as well, because I want to share what we should expect for the remainder of the year. It is entirely normal to see home prices decrease in the second half of the year. We saw that last year. It went from a peak at 380,000, end of the year at 361,000. 2022 was a little bit of an anomaly because we had inventory more than doubling in about 6 months. And of course, rates also doubling as well, which caused home prices to basically tank in the last half of that year. 2021 was also an anomaly as well. We had all-time record lows for 30-year fixed rate mortgage rates, down to about 2.75% back in January of 2021. That's one of the reasons why we saw home prices absolutely skyrocket during the spring home buying season. But on top of that, back in August of 2021, we had very close to all-time record lows yet again for rates, down to about 2.85%. So rates decreased down to very close to all-time record lows. And that's why we saw this very unusual increase in the median sale price back in October through the end of the year. But if we have a more normal market this year, we should expect to see home prices kind of going like this. And I would imagine we're going to be up compared to last year, unless inventory starts skyrocketing, unless people start losing their jobs, and also if we have a lot of people listing their house for sale. But right now, we're up by 4% year over year. Going back to Redfin's report, let's talk about the 50 most populous metros to see how they fare. There's some very, very big differences regarding the median sale price. So the biggest increase on a national level is Detroit, Michigan, up by 16.3%. I'll be there in about 1 month, by the way, to go visit Rocket Mortgage's downtown headquarters there and have a training there. In any case, Detroit, Michigan up by 16.3. Fort Lauderdale, Florida up by 14.4. West Palm Beach, Florida up by 13.9. Providence, Rhode Island up by a whopping 13.4, and New Brunswick, New Jersey up by 12.3%. Pretty wild here. The top 5 are up by more than 12%. There's now only 2 metros that are down, all located in Texas. Once again, Dallas leading the nation with a decrease of 2.3% year over year. After that is Austin, Texas, down by 2.1%. All right, changing gears again, let's talk about average monthly housing payments. That increased by 6.1% from the previous year. And we're at $2,722 per month. During the peak that was set back in late April this year, it was around $2,800 per month. So a small decrease compared to the peak set back in late April. Also at $2,722 per month. Look at 2021. Back then, $1,600 per month to buy an average price home then, compared to right now, up by nearly $1,100 per month. So to say we have a housing affordability issue on a national level is quite the understatement, to say the least. I also want to share this with you guys as well. Let's look at pending home sales, a measure of home buying demand, and then we'll look at the supply side, new listings and active listings. So pending home sales decreased by 5.6% year over year. That's the biggest year over year decrease in about 8 months. So home buying demand decreasing to basically an 8-month low when regarding the year over year change. Now, this is despite the fact we have 18.4% more houses for sale and new listings increased by 6.4%. So this has been a common scenario for quite some time. I would say probably about 3 months. New supply rising, yet home buying demand and contracts being signed decreasing, an imbalance between supply and demand right now. Also, that 18.4% gain of active listings is, though, the smallest increase in 3 months. So in other words, we're not seeing inventory basically going straight up. In fact, over the past 2 weeks, actually has been coming down, which is absolutely abnormal to say the least. Let's look at Redfin's data center regarding this. Pending home sales fell 5.6% year over year. About 1 month ago, they were only down by 2.3% and falling faster compared to previous years. And we're also at least a 4-year low as well. So pending home sales down by about 6%, yet new listings increased by 6.4%, higher than last year, but much lower than 2022 and 2021. Back then, we had 115,000 to about 120,000 new listings. Right now, only 93,676. So lack of new supply hitting the market, even though we're up compared to last year's levels. In regards to housing supply or housing inventory, take a look at this. This is highly unusual because as I reported to you guys, basically during the home buying season, active listings were going up at a much faster clip compared to 2021 and last year. But more recently though, the rate of increase was actually losing momentum, and over the past 2 weeks now, active listings have been going down. This is unusual because active listings or housing supply tends to peak in the late summer months and not in mid-July. But it is still up by 18% year over year. On top of that, it's higher, or I should say it's at least a 3-year high as well. I would imagine though, if inventory starts decreasing further, then we'll get below 2022's levels here very, very soon, potentially in August this year. Something I noticed I want to share with you guys as well is that the gain right now at 18% is not as high compared to the 20% gains we were seeing basically in April and May this year as well. So again, the gains are losing momentum, especially over the past several weeks. For anyone watching today's video who wants to see home prices absolutely tank, you need to see inventory basically going like this, going straight up and not going down. It is a short-term trend, only 2 weeks of a decrease. So stay tuned for that because I'll definitely keep you posted regarding that. If inventory starts going like this, that's going to put more upward pressure on home prices. Yet if inventory starts increasing yet again, that of course would put more downward pressure on home prices in the coming months. Going back to Redfin's report, let's talk about how each of the 50 biggest cities fared regarding pending sales and the measure of new listings. So pending home sales increased in San Jose the most, up by 9.6%. After that was San Francisco, Boston, Newark, New Jersey, and Cincinnati, Ohio. In contrast, there was 43 metros that decreased compared to 1 year ago, only 7 that increased. The biggest declines were Houston, Texas, down a whopping 24.4%. West Palm Beach, Florida, down by 16.9%. Minneapolis, down by 16%. Then we have Virginia, down 13%. And Atlanta, Georgia, declined by 12.9%. In regards to new supply in the market, new listings, that decreased in only 8 metros. Therefore, it increased in 42 of the 50 biggest cities. The biggest increases, San Jose, California, up 30%. Las Vegas, 20%. Miami, Florida, up by 18.9%. Jacksonville, Florida, saw a gain of 17.4%. Then we have Seattle, a gain of new listings up by 15.6%. In contrast, Atlanta, Georgia saw the biggest decrease of new listings, down 13%. Then we have Houston down by 6.6%, Warren, Michigan down by 5.1%, Detroit down by 4.5%, and Minneapolis down 3.2%. All right, moving on, let's talk about the month supply. That's at 3.6 months. At this time last year, the month supply was at 2.9 months. It has been increasing fairly sharply as well ever since early July. We're also, easily at a 3-year high, at least since at least 2021 as well. Now, part of this increase is seasonal, as you can see in 2023. 22 and 2021, the month supply started to increase in July. as a lot of people, had kids out of school, they went on vacations, and they put their plans on hold to buy houses. So that's one of the reasons why we see the month supply starting to increase in the mid-summer months. But it is at least a 3-year high right now. Another anomaly is this right here. 39% of all houses that are in pending home sale status, in other words, the home seller accepts an offer from home buyer within the first 2 weeks of the house being listed for sale. That's at 39% right now. This is at least a 3-year low right now. At this time last year, about 45% of pending sales went under contract within the first 2 weeks of the house being listed for sale. Now it's at 39%, at least a 3-year low. This is an early indication of closed home sales in the coming months, which in my opinion is all pointing to a low level of closed home sales here in a little bit, in a couple of months. Also, let's talk about days in the market. This is also at least a 3-year high. It's taken approximately 32 days to sell a house. Back in 2023 at this time, days in the market was approximately 27 days. Now it's at 32 days. Much different compared to the start this year, when houses on average were selling faster than last year's levels. But ever since May, houses taking longer to sell compared to last year. This, along with a lack of contracts being signed right now, is all contributing to the rise of inventory levels on a year-over-year basis. Yet another leading indication of home buying demand is this right here. The share of price reductions right now at 6.7% is a new all-time record high for data that goes back to at least 2015. It's also higher compared to the peak of 2022, when back then the share of price reductions was slightly below what we're seeing right now. What's different about last year, or I should say 2022 compared to this year though, is that the share of price reductions tend to peak in the winter months and not in mid-July. As you can see, 2021, 23, and 22, price reductions tend to peak around November, and here we are in mid-July at record high levels. Now, what's different though, this year compared to 2022 though, is in January 2022, the share of price ups was only at 1.7%, approximately 1.7%. But by the time we hit July, it surged to about 5.7%. Therefore, from January through basically mid-July, it nearly quadrupled, whereas this year it went from 3.5 to 6.7%, so doubling. So I just want to say this because the rate of change, something I've been following on the channel or sharing with you guys for quite some time, is not as bad as 2022. The share of price reductions nearly quadrupling, whereas this year, the share of price drops basically doubling. That's because we already started at high levels in January at 3.5% compared to the 1.6% in 2022. However, though, let's see how the rest of the year progresses though, because if the share of price drops starts kind of going like this, it's at very, very high levels we haven't seen ever. That of course would be a recipe for disaster, and I'll definitely keep posted with latest developments on that. Redfin also provided this as well. This is the average sale price to final list price ratio. That's at 99.5%. This means on average, for all the houses that sold over the previous 4 weeks, they sold for 0.5 percentage points less than the final list price. This is at least a 3-year low. For example, 2021 this time, houses on average selling 2% over asking. Now they're selling for slightly below asking right now. Also, last year's time, houses selling for the seller's asking price at ratio at 100%. Now we're at 99.5%. So slightly below last year's levels, but way lower compared to 2022 and 21. Lastly, let's have a look at Redfin's home buyer demand index. A kind of a way to look at this, the higher the number means that they have a lot of activity, a lot of people reaching out to look at houses, place offers, etc. And of course, a low number means they have a lack of that happening, right? And right now, Redfin, their index is at least a 3-year low by far. And also, it's been basically moving sideways ever since June this year as well. Additionally, it's down 15% from the same time frame in 2023. and also coincidentally, also in 2022 as well. With that said, please comment below with your biggest takeaways from today's video. Mine is the giant increase of the surge of price reductions right now. And of course, inventory rising, but quite unusual to see that inventory decrease over the past 2 weeks. We'll have to see what happens there. We'll have to see more data coming in. And of course, I'll definitely keep posted with the latest developments. But please leave me a comment below with your thoughts regarding today's video. And also, what are you seeing in your neck of the woods? Because the data I'm sharing in today's video, except for these 50 most biggest cities, real estate is local, is basically what I'm trying to say here. So what are you seeing in your neck of the woods? Please leave me a comment below. And thank you so much for joining me in today's video. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Have an amazing day.